The Airbus A380, the largest passenger airliner ever built, looms like a titan of modern engineering, a marvel of human ingenuity that dwarfs everything in its vicinity. To stand beside it is to feel the humbling insignificance of human scale against the vastness of aviation's most ambitious creation. From nose to tail, the double-decker behemoth stretches an astonishing 72.72 meters, longer than the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk. Its wingspan, a breathtaking 79.75 meters, eclipses the width of an Olympic swimming pool, and its tail alone towers as high as a 7-story building. Yet these numbers alone fail to capture the true immensity of the A380. Only when compared to the tiny figures of ground crew, passengers and maintenance workers scurrying beneath its wings does its gargantuan presence fully sink in. The aircraft's sheer bulk becomes most apparent during boarding. A single jet bridge connects to the lower deck, while a second extends to the upper level, each funneling streams of passengers into the belly of the colossal machine. From a distance, the people ascending the ramps resemble ants filing into an industrial hive, their movements orderly yet minuscule against the fuselage's smooth, metallic expanse. Inside, the A380 can carry up to 853 passengers in an all-economy configuration, though most airlines opt for a more spacious layout of around 500 to 600 seats. Even then, the cabin's dimensions are staggering. The upper deck alone runs nearly the length of a football field, with wide aisles and high ceilings that make it feel more like a flying auditorium than a conventional airplane. Outside, the scale becomes even more surreal. Maintenance crews in bright orange vests move like clockwork beneath the wings, their ladders and service trucks appearing like toys next to the A380's 4 massive Rolls-Royce Trent 900 or Engine Alliance GP7-200 turbofans. Each engine nacelle is wide enough to swallow a full-grown adult without touching the sides, its diameter measuring a jaw-dropping 2.95 meters, larger than the fuselage of some regional jets. The wings, thick as industrial girders, flex visibly under their own weight when fully fueled, capable of holding over 320,000 liters of jet fuel, a volume that could fill an average backyard swimming pool twice over. Even the act of refueling the A380 is a spectacle of industrial choreography. Tanker trucks, themselves sizable vehicles, queue beneath the wings, their hoses connected like intravenous lines, feeding the insatiable thirst of this airborne leviathan. The process takes hours, a reminder that the A380 was designed not for efficiency alone, but for the awe-inspiring capability of transporting entire city blocks across oceans in a single bound. And then there is the takeoff. At maximum weight, the A380 tips the scales at 575 metric tons, heavier than 100 adult elephants. Its engines roar with a combined thrust of over 300,000 pounds, enough to shake the ground and rattle nearby buildings. As it accelerates down, the runway, the sight of such an immense structure defying gravity, is nothing short of mesmerizing. The wings, flexing under the strain, seem to breathe, alive, with the physics of lift and momentum. And when it finally leaves the earth, climbing into the sky with improbable grace, the A380 doesn't just fly, it dominates the heavens, a monument to human ambition rendered in aluminum and composite materials. To witness the A380 in its full glory is to understand the extremes of modern aviation. It is a machine that makes humans seem fleeting and fragile by comparison, yet it is also a testament to what we can achieve when ambition meets engineering. Every rivet, every hydraulic line, every square meter of its vast wingspan speaks to the relentless pursuit of pushing boundaries, not just in the sky, but in the very definition of what is possible. The Airbus A380 is not merely an aircraft, it is a city in the sky, a meticulously engineered ecosystem where every component exists on a scale that defies ordinary perception. To walk through its structure is to navigate a labyrinth of machinery, hydraulics, and sheer volume, each element dwarfing the humans who built and maintain it. The landing gear alone is a mechanical wonder, a network of 22 wheels supporting the aircraft's staggering weight. Each tire stands nearly as tall as an average person, and the shock absorbers, designed to withstand the impact of 575 tons touching down at 150 knots, could easily crush a small car if they failed. The act of retracting the landing gear after takeoff is a ballet of hydraulics, with pistons thicker than tree trunks folding the massive struts into the belly of the beast, where they remain until the descent begins anew. Inside the cavernous fuselage, the A380's double-deck design creates a world of layered space. The upper deck, running almost the entire length of the aircraft, is not just an afterthought, it is a structural necessity, adding rigidity to the airframe while providing airlines with premium real estate for first-class suites and lounges. The staircases connecting the two levels are wide enough for two passengers to pass comfortably, yet they feel like mere service corridors compared to the vastness around them. Even the cargo holds beneath the passenger deck are immense, capable of swallowing entire pallets of luggage, freight, and even vehicles with room to spare. The total cargo volume exceeds 175 cubic meters, enough space to fit several shipping containers, or, in more human terms, a small apartment's worth of furniture. The wings, perhaps the most awe-inspiring feature of the A380, are feats of aerodynamic mastery. Their surface area alone could cover 2 tennis courts, and their curvature is calculated down to the millimeter to generate the lift needed to haul the aircraft's maximum takeoff weight into the sky. Fuel is stored not just in the center tanks, but within the wings themselves, a network of sealed chambers that prevent sloshing and imbalance during flight. If one were to stand inside an empty fuel tank during maintenance, the experience would be akin to standing in a dimly lit warehouse, the curved walls stretching away into darkness, the only sound the distant echoes of technicians working somewhere in the depths. The cockpit, perched high above the nose, offers a vantage point that reinforces the A380's dominance over its surroundings. From here, the pilots oversee a dashboard of screens, switches, and controls, each one a tiny interface to a system of colossal power. The windshield panels, though appearing modest from the outside, are thick enough to withstand bird strikes at cruising speed, their layered construction a reminder that even the smallest components must be overbuilt to handle the stresses of such a massive machine. And then there are the engines. The A380's turbofans are not just propulsion units, they are engineering marvels, each one generating enough thrust to power a naval frigate. The fan blades, made of ultra-lightweight titanium and carbon composites, spin at speeds that would turn steel into molten shreds, yet they operate with near-silent precision at altitude. The diameter of each engine's intake is so vast that a fully grown adult could stand inside without needing to crouch, and the exhaust nozzle could easily accommodate a compact car. When the engines spool up for takeoff, the sound is not just noise. It is a physical force, a deep, resonant thunder that vibrates through the ground and into the chests of anyone standing nearby. Yet for all its mechanical grandeur, the A380's true wonder lies in its ability to make the impossible seem routine. Every flight is a symphony of coordination, from the ground crews guiding its bulk with precise hand signals to the air traffic controllers who slot it into the sky alongside smaller, humbler aircraft. It is a machine that demands respect, not just for its size, but for the thousands of hours of labor, the countless calculations, and the sheer audacity required to make it fly. To stand beneath an A380 as it taxis to the gate is to witness the pinnacle of human ambition, a creation so vast it redefines the meaning of scale. And yet, for all its enormity, it is still just a vessel, a means to connect people across continents, a reminder that even the largest machines are, in the end, servants to the human spirit. The true measure of the A380's enormity reveals itself, not in empty hangars or technical specifications, but in the bustling human activity that brings it to life. Like a sleeping giant roused from slumber, the aircraft transforms from a silent aluminum shell into a pulsating organism the moment ground crews begin their preparations. Dozens of workers swarm around its frame, each performing specialized tasks that seem almost comically small against the backdrop of the jet's overwhelming bulk. Fuel trucks, baggage loaders, and catering vehicles cluster beneath the wings like remoras attending a whale, their combined efforts barely making a dent in the aircraft's voracious appetite for resources. The loading process alone is a masterclass. In logistics, baggage handlers maneuver carts stacked with hundreds of suitcases toward the gaping cargo holds, where automated belts swallow them into the belly of the plane. Each container standardized to fit perfectly in the A380's storage bays can hold nearly 3 tons of luggage, yet the aircraft carries so many that loading becomes a carefully timed ballet. From a distance, the workers guiding the containers resemble children playing with oversized building blocks, their fluorescent vests the only spots of color against the machine's monochrome vastness. Above them, catering trucks extend their hydraulic lifts to the galley doors, delivering thousands of meals wrapped in foil, each one destined to be reheated and served at 35,000 feet. The quantities are staggering. An average long-haul flight requires over 20,000 individual items, cutlery, napkins, trays, and beverages, all meticulously stocked in kitchens that would put some restaurants to shame. Inside the cabin, the cleaning crews perform their own version of urban renewal. With only 90 minutes between flights on tight schedules, they flood the aircraft in waves, vacuuming carpets, replacing headrest covers, and scrubbing lavatories with military efficiency. The upper deck alone contains enough seating to fill a small theater, yet every seat must be checked, every tray table wiped down, every life vest confirmed to be in place. The aisles, wide by commercial aviation standards, still force the cleaners into an intricate dance as they weave around each other, their movements practiced to avoid collisions in the confined space. From the outside, through the oval windows, the shadows flicker like fireflies trapped in a glass jar, tiny, frantic, and utterly dwarfed by their surroundings. Even the flight crew's preparations highlight the A380's scale. Pilots perform their walk-around inspection like archaeologists surveying a monument, craning their necks to examine engine nacelles that loom overhead like small buildings. The pre-flight checklist runs to hundreds of items, each one critical to managing the aircraft's complex systems. In the cockpit, the captain and first officer sit before a wall of screens and switches, their seats perched so high that taxiing gives them a near-helicopter view of the tarmac. Behind them, the cabin manager coordinates a small army of flight attendants, often more than 24 on a full flight, assigning positions across both decks to ensure every passenger can be reached within seconds in an emergency. As boarding begins, the human tide shifts. Passengers stream up the jet bridges in a continuous flow, their diverse languages and destinations merging into a single migration. The economy cabin absorbs them row by row, the seats stretching into the distance like a suspended highway. Those turning left toward the upper deck experience the subtle disorientation of climbing stairs mid-air, emerging into a space that feels paradoxically more intimate despite being part of the world's largest airliner. First-class passengers settle into suites that convert to flat beds, their privacy partitions and aisle-side curtains creating a microcosm of luxury within the greater whole. Then comes the moment of truth, the synchronized closure of doors. Ground Crew chiefs perform final visual checks, their headsets linking them to the pilots as they confirm the aircraft's readiness. The jet bridges retract, the trucks disperse, and the A380 stands alone, a self-contained universe on wheels. The auxiliary power unit hums. The lights flicker to life, and the giant's heartbeat quickens. Outside, a lone mechanic gives the thumbs up, his figure silhouetted against the landing gear's towering struts. With a rumble that starts in the bones rather than the ears, the first engine spins to life. In this instant, the A380's relationship with humanity inverts. No longer is it a passive structure serviced by people. It becomes the active force, the entity that will carry these hundreds of lives across oceans and continents. The ground crew steps back, their work complete. The passengers, now reduced to mere data points in the aircraft's weight and balance calculations, settle into their seats. And the pilots, fingertips resting lightly on the throttles, prepare to unleash the controlled fury that will lift this mountain of metal into the sky. The A380 doesn't just transport people. It consumes them, processes them, and temporarily makes them part of its own immense being. For the next dozen hours, their collective fate rests in its wings. The A380 does not exist in isolation. It operates within an ecosystem of equally oversized support infrastructure that pushes the boundaries of terrestrial engineering. Every airport that welcomes this double-deck Colossus must undergo radical transformations. Their runways reinforced, their taxiways widened, their gates entirely reimagined. The aircraft's footprint is so vast that standard jet bridges cannot service it. Instead, specialized dual boarding systems must be installed, their articulated arms extending like the limbs of some robotic crustacean to simultaneously connect with both the upper and lower decks. The reinforced concrete where the A380 parks bears scars from years of its weight, the pavement subtly depressed from the constant pressure of 1.2 million pounds resting on its landing gear. Moving the A380 on the ground is an exercise in precision and patience. Unlike smaller aircraft that can be pushed back by a single tug, the A380 requires specialized vehicles with enough torque to overcome its inertia. These mega-tugs, weighing as much as 50 tons themselves, latch onto the nose gear with a hydraulic, coupling strong enough to drag a fully loaded 747. The drivers, perched high in their cabs, manipulate joysticks with micrometer sensitivity, aware that even a slight overcorrection could send hundreds of tons sliding in the wrong direction. Behind them, a convoy of marshallers follows on foot, their glowing wands cutting through the pre-dawn gloom as they guide the aircraft's wingtips past obstacles with mere inches to spare. At major hubs like Dubai or Frankfurt, where multiple A380s may be maneuvering simultaneously, the ground traffic resembles a carefully choreographed ballet of giants, each movement calculated to prevent the unthinkable. The scrape of a winglet against a service truck, or worse, the catastrophic meeting of two behemoths. Fueling an A380 is an industrial operation unto itself. The aircraft's 11 fuel tanks, distributed throughout the wings and center fuselage, can hold enough kerosene to fill 3,500 average car gas tanks. At major airports, dedicated fuel hydrants pump at rates exceeding 1,000 liters per minute, yet even at this speed, filling the tanks from empty takes over an hour. The fuel trucks, their cylindrical tanks gleaming in the morning sun, queue like dutiful attendants, their drivers monitoring the flow through computerized gauges that track the aircraft's shifting weight distribution. Every liter added alters the center of gravity, requiring constant updates to the flight management system. De-icing an A380 in winter conditions becomes a spectacle of biblical proportions. The specialized trucks, their booms extended to their maximum reach, spray thousands of gallons of glycol mixture in great orange-tinged arcs. The fluid cascades off the wings in torrents, forming steaming rivers on the tarmac below. Teams of Technicians in insulated suits watch from multiple angles, their radios crackling with temperature updates and fluid viscosity readings. The process consumes enough de-icing fluid to fill a swimming pool, all to ensure that a few millimeters of ice don't disrupt the carefully calculated aerodynamics of those enormous wings. When maintenance is required, the scale escalates further. Hangars capable of housing the A380 have ceilings high enough to accommodate a 7-story building. Their interior space is so vast that clouds sometimes form near the rafters on humid days. Scaffolding towers surround the aircraft like siege engines, attacking a castle, giving technicians access to engines that hang 15 feet off the ground. Replacing a single Rolls-Royce Trent 900 engine requires a custom-built hydraulic lift and nearly a day of labor. The power plant alone costs more than a private jet. Even routine tire changes become major operations, with each nitrogen-filled radial requiring 3 people just to maneuver it into position. The runways themselves bear silent witness to the A380's passage. Traditional 12-inch thick pavement would crumble under its weight, so A380-approved strips use reinforced concrete with stress-absorbing underlayers. The braking zones are lengthened, the turn pads widened, and the taxiway intersections redesigned to accommodate its unprecedented wingspan. At night, the runway lights trace paths that seem absurdly generous for conventional aircraft, but become mere guidelines for the A380's pilots. Yet perhaps the most striking aspect of this ecosystem is how quickly it all springs into coordinated action when an A380 announces its arrival. Like worker ants sensing the return of their queen, ground crews mobilize with practiced urgency. Stair trucks roll out, baggage systems whir to life, and fuel tenders begin their approach, all before the first shudder of reverse thrust echoes across the apron. The dance begins anew. This daily ritual of humans serving their steel and composite overlord, a partnership where one misstep could mean catastrophe. But perfect synchronization creates something approaching magic. For all its technological wonder, the A380's true genius lies in how it forces humanity to rise to its level. Airports expand, workers specialize, and entire supply chains evolve. All to serve this airborne city that in the end exists for no other reason than to shrink our world a little more. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the tarmac, one of the last active A380s in commercial service prepares for its final approach. The aircraft's retirement marks the end of an era, not just for aviation, but for a certain audacious vision of the future. The very concept of a double-deck, 4-engine Colossus carrying 500 souls across continents now feels like a relic from a more optimistic age, when efficiency hadn't yet eclipsed grandeur as the defining principle of air travel. The A380 descends through layers of twilight, its wingtip vortices shimmering in the moist evening air. From the ground, its silhouette is unmistakable. The humped upper deck, the impossibly wide wings, the 4 engines hanging like pendant jewels. As it flares for landing, the main gear touches down with a puff of smoke, the 22 tires absorbing the impact of 400 tons returning to Earth. The sheer physics of the moment are staggering. The kinetic energy dissipated in that single second could power a small town for minutes. Reverse thrust roars, a deep-throated bellow that echoes across the airport perimeter, rattling fence lines and sending birds scattering from nearby fields. Ground crews stand ready, their postures a mix of professional focus and quiet reverence. For many, this is more than just another arrival. It's the last time they'll marshal in this particular giant. The flashing wands guide the aircraft to its stand with ceremonial precision, every movement measured, every signal crisp. When the engines finally spool down, the silence feels heavier than the noise that preceded it. Inside, passengers disembark with the usual mix of weariness and relief, oblivious to the historical significance of their flight. A child presses, a hand against the fuselage as she walks toward the terminal, her fingers spanning less than the width of a single rivet. Behind her, cleaners board to begin their work, but tonight there's no hurry to prepare for the next flight. The catering trucks deliver minimal supplies, just enough for the aircraft's ferry journey to the storage facility. Fuelers pump, only what's needed to reach the desert, not the full tanks that once signaled imminent departure for Hong Kong or Sydney. As night falls, a skeleton crew of pilots and engineers conducts the final checks. The cockpit, still warm from the flight, smells of ozone and coffee. The captain runs a hand across the overhead panel, flipping switches with deliberate care. Outside, maintenance teams move through their routines with unusual solemnity. Chocking. The wheels, connecting ground power, disabling systems one by one. The aircraft's size, so often a source of awe, now seems almost poignant. What once represented the pinnacle of passenger comfort, wide aisles, high ceilings, space to breathe, now feels like an extravagant anachronism in an era of slimline. Seats and densified cabins, a tug connects to the nose gear with a metallic clunk. Unlike the urgent pushbacks of its heyday, this movement is slow, almost processional. The A380 rolls silently toward the hangar, its shadow stretching across the apron like a fading time-lapse. In the morning, technicians will begin the preservation process, sealing engines, treating fuel tanks, covering windows against the sun. Within weeks, the aircraft will make its last flight to the storage boneyard, where it will join others of its kind in orderly rows, their once gleaming liveries gradually fading under layers of dust and desert sun. From a distance, the A380 still looks every inch the king of the skies. But the world has moved on. The runways it once dominated now belong to smaller, nimbler twins. The gates it required have been reconfigured for more profitable traffic. Even the passengers who once marveled at its scale now prioritize Wi-Fi. Speed over seat width, yet as the hangar doors close behind it, one truth remains. For a brief, glorious moment, we built something magnificent, not because we had to, but because we could. The A380 was never just an airplane. It was a statement, a flying cathedral, proof that ambition alone could justify existence. And long after the last one flies, its legacy will linger, not in fuel efficiency statistics or load factors, but in the collective memory of anyone who ever stood beneath its wings and felt small.